Hey everyone, you're tuned into InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy. Join us as we talk about anything.
And everything.
All the stuff that makes life interesting.
So let's get to it. Hey everybody, and welcome to InfoQuench. I am your host, Jeff.
And I'm Amy.
And this podcast, we are going to be talking about COVID-19.
That's right. And we actually talked, Jeff and I did before we started recording, about what we should do for a topic. I always have a lot of topics that I've researched and you know, covering various tips and specific, you know, things. But we wondered whether or not we should, you know, focus the podcast on coronavirus and the resulting disease, which is COVID-19. And we decided that, yes, we should. I mean, it's happening. Everybody is in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't ignore the elephant in the room. So
it's a bit of like a dystopian time because nobody's really out on the streets really that much. And
well, there are some people that are. And
people...
I'll take a minute here to vent my frustration.
Go for it.
So we're in St. John, New Brunswick, and we're recording this on Sunday, March 15th. So at this point, we're still at a handful of cases here in our province, but the provincial government has made the decision to close schools for 2 weeks, and then reassess. That is something that I don't recall happening ever in my lifetime.
I can't remember.
So it's an unprecedented decision on behalf of the government, yet...
Even during some Snowmageddon, they didn't cancel school like that.
And when my frustration comes from when you go on social media and you see that there are still people gathering, having, play dates with kids and, going out to playgrounds and gathering in public areas. And it's really, all of the good that closing the schools will do in terms of slowing the spread it'll lessen that impact by people just ignoring the instructions of the government.
It seems to be an incredibly infectious disease as well.
It's hard for, it's a hard thing to cut ourselves off socially and to do what's known as social distancing. It's not in human nature. I mean,
it's not at all.
Everything I've ever read about books, on happiness and the source of happiness and the happiest communities, it's all about people who are feeling connected. That's the most important piece.
Well, look at Italy. I'm sure that's where they live life to the fullest, and now they're completely isolated from everything. There's no restaurants. There's no bars. Nothing is really happening there. And it's, I mean, if we're going to look at Italy and Spain as like, how far ahead of us are they in this, like 2 or 3 weeks? Like, is that what's coming here? Like, and I don't mean to be alarmist about it, but is that sort of what's going to happen with this disease worldwide? Is it going to
Well, I should have said this at the very beginning. Of course, Jeff and I, anybody who knows us knows we are not medical experts, so we don't have any medical expertise. And anything we say is just really a matter of our own opinion. I encourage anybody who is looking for information and trying to stay informed. I know I like to stay informed myself, but to go to reputable sources.
Yes.
The World Health Organization is the gold standard in terms of, aggregating information from around the world. And their website has daily situation reports. They're published usually around early evening, our time here in Atlantic, Canada. Mm-hmm. And they'll give you a good snapshot. It's, bullets. It tells you where the cases are, where new cases are, what their action steps are. But they also have great educational handouts and things that you can read to get a better understanding of the virus, how it spreads. You were saying
that they have handouts that you could print out for how to care for somebody with it in your home.
Right. So I know at this point we're all focused on how not to contract it, how to slow the spread, but we also have to consider what we would do if one of our family members has it and what that would look like. And I think taking the time and reading through one of the handouts on the World Health Organization's website, just search WHO Corona and it'll come up. And if you look through those handouts and you see the extreme measures that they say in order to isolate the person within your home, to avoid the spread to the other family members, it gives a good understanding of how serious we do need to take this. And, Jeff, you said earlier about, is what's happening in Italy and Spain eventually going to happen here? And I personally suspect it will, but I think
Yeah.
our goal is to slow the spread so that our healthcare system can keep up.
Right. And so
I think it hit very fast and very hard there, and I'm hoping that our government is being proactive with these, measures of closing the schools, and hopefully we'll have, the majority of the people in the community taking that under consideration and limiting their social contacts, and I think all of those pieces will help. I mean, it's just one step that we can each take, because there are frontline workers who are nurses and doctors and firefighters
Porters
and police
and-
officers
yeah.
and
everybody.
people who are stocking the shelves in the grocery stores, pharmacists filling medications. Those workers don't necessarily have the option to
Yeah.
work from home or remain isolated. So if we have the opportunity to say, hey, I'm not going to go to a social gathering, by the chance that I can maybe help slow or help in some small way,
Yeah.
I feel like it's
a very little we
the
can
right
do.
it's the right decision to make.
I absolutely agree. And it is to be taken quite seriously. And it doesn't mean going to your friend's house to have a play date with your kid and their kid.
Well,
Like,
just
it's
because you know somebody doesn't mean you're not going to catch something.
exactly.
from them,
And there's
right?
nothing personal there. It's just mitigating the spread of this horrible virus.
Well, I think, if a month ago, if you had refused to shake someone's hand, you'd get the side eye. But now that's
Yeah.
already become an acceptable thing that people understand, that we're not shaking hands anymore. And social distancing will have to become accepted as well, because this isn't a short game. We're going through a long stretch.
Yeah.
And
You think
we'll need to adapt.
Do you think that we may have to extend the cancellation of school longer? I know you don't know the answer, but do you?
If I have my
do you-
magic 8-ball?
Do you kind of like foresee
Oh,
that
absolutely.
sort of? Yeah,
Absolutely. When you look at the
same
trajectory.
as myself, yeah.
I've been following the outbreak since it started in Wuhan the first cases started in December, but it really, I think, came to light
Yeah.
in January. And I mean, they are still in the throes of it. So to think that we're going to
Yeah.
pass in 2 weeks, and I see so many people on social media that are out of the country and they're
Yeah.
coming back in. And I know that they'll self-isolate for a couple of weeks. Those are just the people that I know, that I'm friends
I
with. So
know.
how many other hundreds of thousands of people will be coming back in? And
And you got to
hope-
think about the people who are like, I don't need to do that.
exactly.
And that there are people like that out there. There are people who are just stubborn, who don't think that it's something to take seriously, kind of like the President of the United States.
Right.
Really? I mean, come on. He's still not taking it seriously. He almost didn't get tested himself, which is ridiculous, because he met people that had the coronavirus. So,
And we went into this saying, let's not be alarmist. I feel like we're coming quite alarmist, but I feel like you should also need to be.
you should err on the side of caution.
The virus deserves a level of respect in terms of understanding the severity of it on the system.
Absolutely.
Even though I know people are saying, the vast majority of people recover, it's just a cold, it's like the flu. But we just have to think about our medical system, and how that impacts other things. Other non-coronavirus medical activities.
Yeah.
Other surgeries that are scheduled, and all of those things will be impacted. So, isolation, to me, if we can keep ourselves distance and do whatever we can, then let's do our part.
Our isolation has kind of just begun. It's only been 2 or 3 days, but we're trying to do different things each day with our toddler to keep things interesting, and so that he doesn't get too much cabin fever. Like today we had art day. It was just art. We just did a giant collage of like ripped up pieces out of the pages out of magazines and stuff, and it was fun.
Oh, and he loved it, and he was looking forward to it. And it's, I think those types of things really are important, especially for our kids. And we've been trying to be conscious of how much we're talking about everything that's happening around our son. And we've always tried to balance making sure that he's informed. I think it's important for him to understand what's going on in the world, but also to keep it at a level that doesn't create, a lot of fear, because that's unnecessary
Absolutely.
for them. We talk about infection control and germs. And I mean, the way I picture it, I worked at our regional health authority years ago, and infection control was always something that was discussed widely. And even pandemic planning, 15, 20 years ago, the plans for pandemics were well underway. So, you can feel secure in knowing that our health authorities are well prepared for this type of situation. But
what do you feel is something that people can do to sort of keep a little bit sane throughout all of this cabin fever?
Let's first talk about how to keep insane.
Okay.
In
insane
terms of
in the
infection
membrane.
Control. I just wanted to give a couple tips around infection control when you're coming back into the house and what to think about. If you look at the CDC, and I talked about reputable sites, World Health Organization, of course, and then the CDC is the Center for Disease Control, which is based out of the U.S. But they talk about wiping down at least once a day in your home any
doorknobs,
any high, touch surfaces. So I feel this is especially important when somebody re-enters the house. So, for instance, Jeff went out for a walk today, and when he came back in, one way to do it is to picture the person if they
were already infected.
Well, if they had red paint on their hands, and they walked in the door, and you basically picture where would there be red paint based on, and it's the light switch, it's the doorknob coming in, it's, turning on the taps, it's the top of your soap dispenser, it's the flush on your toilet, the handles on your tap, the top of your faucet.
What do you say to people? Because there are people out there that think, well, that's just a little too much. Like, that's too much. But it truly, truly isn't.
I think what I would say to those people is, if you had a surgeon preparing to do surgery on you and you were watching them get cleaned up, what would you say is too much?
Yeah.
Would you want them to be thorough with their hand washing?
Yeah.
Because you would understand that one germ can mean a systemic infection. And if you picture it in that frame of reference, I think it gives you a better understanding the importance of infection control.
It's widely reported, too, that people who are younger tend to recover quite quickly from COVID-19. But the problem therein lies is that you could transmit it to somebody who could then actually pass away from it.
Right.
So you may as well, act like you could die from it, or your loved ones, because, you want to be able to be very safe with it.
Yeah, right. We all have responsibilities as potential carriers. Even if we ourselves are not sick, we can definitely transmit it to people who are, I know the elderly population is a strong focus, but also people who have compromised immune systems. They could be undergoing cancer treatments, or people who have existing heart conditions or respiratory conditions such as asthma. I know we have friends who have those types of conditions who have expressed a lot of concerns and are just sort of, begging people to.
It'll be interesting because I know we
scheme.
talked about the possibility of doing more of these COVID-19 podcasts, just because it's gonna be mutating. It's going to be developing in different ways. It'll be interesting to see where we are in a week or 2 weeks from now, from this podcast, as to what it is that we're discussing, not disgusting. But yeah,
Freudian slip. Well, I think it's a very interesting, if not terrifying, social experiment to see how people are reacting. And, following the conversations online, people wondering what degree of isolation or social distancing is normal or acceptable, worrying about, hurting feelings.
I've moved past that. I don't care how crazy people think that we are like, as a couple, being, as far as how strict we are with like combating this virus. I think it only makes sense. Like, I don't care what people think anymore. It's our safety and the safety of our loved ones around us and our friends and everybody else, the human race, really.
Oh, I agree. I agree 1,000%.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see what those conversations are. And, there's a lot of real positive messaging coming out too. People saying, to remember to be kind.
Yeah.
I went out to do a last run of groceries on Friday. I've been stocking up for weeks, getting just, not panic buying, but getting a few extra non-perishables.
That's right. So you don't have to keep going out.
I think I mentioned that in the last episode. There's only so much you need of toilet paper. I know that's the thing everybody seems to be focused on.
But you don't want to feel weird when you go out to just buy your regular dose of toilet paper, and then people think that you are panic buying toilet paper. Do you know what I'm
Oh
saying
no,
by that?
I think it's the people with the
think
shopping carts full. But stores are limiting.
No, but you
purchases
could just
now,
be
too.
going out just buying you just need toilet paper, but people are going to think, oh, look at that person. They're just buying like all the toilet paper up, even though you just need one package of it, Anyway, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it all turns out.
I think so too. And I think focusing on the positive when they say whenever there's, even a tragedy, whether it's, 9/11 or the Boston Marathon bombing, people always say, look for the people who are doing good. And there is a lot of good being done. I see groups, that are sort of coming together to try to organize food for kids who may have depended on, getting food from their schools and the schools being closed. So, I know that we have an especially high poverty rate in our city. So watching groups come together to do those types of things and trying to focus on the positive aspects of humanity in times of crisis is something that can help us stay sane.
It's interesting because, they started off locally basically saying don't be in groups of people over 100 or 120 people or something like
150,
that. 150. Yes. But that's slowly going to decrease because just today, Chicago or Illinois, the entire state of Illinois, all bars, all restaurants are closed, So how long before you go from 100 people to like, oh, maybe all these bars and restaurants should close where people congregate,
Well, I think once they've made the decision to close the school systems and they've
exactly.
And they said, in terms of social distancing, they're saying 2 arms length or about 6 feet, depending on the source of reference. But I mean, that's a fair distance between people. So if you can avoid gatherings, why not? So
absolutely.
In terms of staying sane, I focused on the insane, all the things that I like to think about, but doing fun things with kids, but also keeping an overall structure, I think, for your family and your kids is really important.
I agree.
I think anybody who suffers from, mental health issues, or even people who have gone through, having a newborn baby and how, your sleep is disrupted and your overall routine gets disrupted. Routine is so important for mental health. And structure is important for kids in general. So having, that's something else that's been circulating around online that you can Google is having a daily schedule and keeping up, things like...
If something's on your mind, you should articulate it with your loved one. Don't keep it inside.
Oh, well, yes, absolutely. And then in terms of a structure, though, having a certain time that you get up, having outside time, because, we spent some time outside. We're lucky enough to have a fenced yard that we can go out and spend some time outside and still sort of be, isolated. But exercise is important. Fresh air is important. And there are ways to do that without interacting with other people.
Absolutely.
And, keeping, some structure to having some educational activities with the kids so they're not just doing, all screen time, keeping, certain lunchtime. They're used to a school day, if you have school-age children, with, set times for certain activities. And I feel like it's important to keep some normalcy is to have that structure with them, even if they're at home, not treat it as a snow day for weeks on end.
For new listeners, old listeners or loyal listeners will know that we have a 7-year-old. So what we've been doing, I know I touched on it before. We had art day today. Well, tomorrow, each day will be a different theme is what I was thinking. It would be a fun thing for him to do, right? Like tomorrow, maybe art or math day. And then the next day will be like spelling day, or, each day spend like 2 or 3 hours or whatever it is on one particular task. And then hopefully that kind of kills a little bit of boredom,
Well, and it's a great time for, we have technology at our disposal, and we should definitely be using it. There's a lot of websites that have come up with educational materials that are free, free access that you can access with your kids and set them up to go through those. So, it's a time to be able to make use of our technology and also to stay connected. As adults, we're staying connected through social media, and that's important, but we should think about our kids. And, we talked about today, we want to set up some virtual play dates.
Right.
We have an only child, so there's a good chance that it could be quite a while before he's interacting with other
school?
kids.
Yeah, I know.
And that's a hard thing.
That's a really hard thing.
So,
he's not admitting it right now. He's like, no, I'm fine. But
No,
I think it'll
it's early
eventually get to them.
days, right? It's
Yeah,
early days.
it's only
but
2 or 3 days that we've been kind of holed up, and I have heard of other families and other couples and people who are single or whatever. Like they're all taking it seriously, which is really, really admirable of people to do. I feel, you got to take this stuff seriously. You got to really actually stay
So it's
isolated.
And it's a great time to be creative, to find out ways. Like I mentioned, we're going to figure out a way to do some virtual play dates.
Yeah, that's gonna be great.
And so that the kids can have fun with that and see each other, and so we haven't got our heads around exactly how that'll work, but we'll
Yeah.
get something figured out and maybe give you an update on the next episode on how that plays out, and see if there's any. I'm sure there's some tools that exist online to help with that type of thing.
Oh, they could play with it, where hats come onto their heads, and I don't even know what the heck it is, Instagram or something. You know what I'm talking about, right? Snapchat? Oh, yeah, or maybe it's Snapchat. Well, like when they smile and then bubbles come up.
But even just having, set up, we often do in the workplace, we'll do virtual meetings where
Yeah.
you can see everybody and they're sitting in their respective boardrooms and you're sitting in
Yeah.
yours. So there's no reason why you can't do that with kids a bit.
Absolutely.
But set it up as as for play. So we're going to look at how we can set that up and do
They
that.
could play XO. They could do that virtually.
Yes.
Things, simple things like
So
that.
we'll come up with something, and
Yeah.
we'll definitely update you, because I feel we get so focused on our own social needs as adults that we sometimes forget about the social needs of our kids and realize that they need more than just us to to stay occupied and engaged.
Speaking of keeping yourself occupied when you're an adult, there is a lot of online resources where you could check out museums and stuff online. I know you can do that, and you can get
like a virtual. You can
virtual
do
tours,
virtual
that's it.
tours of the world's most famous museums. So
yeah.
that's really cool. I saw some
And then
websites
there's
circulating on that.
the Korg, which is a synthesizer company, and Moog.
How do you
which is
spell that? Korg.
Korg.
Okay.
Yeah, and they've made their K-oscillator, which is pretty cool, free for musicians, because they feel like, if you can't go and tour and stuff, maybe you could just have some fun with this for free. So
what does it
that's
do?
New. It's just it's like you use your finger to make different like beats and stuff, and you can just play with it for hours.
Kind of like GarageBand sort of thing?
Nah, kind of. More of like a synthesizer that you can pretty much control with just one finger.
Okay.
Which is
And
really
can you
interesting.
record it, or
You can record it and save it and
So
share
how does
it.
someone find that? They just search KORG?
It's just go to KORG, and then if you have an iPhone, which I do, is you just go. It's called the K-oscillator. It's called.
Are you going to spell K-oscillator?
KIOSSAIOLATER, something like that.
Jeff also made a playlist.
Oh yeah,
Pandemic
I did, yeah.
playlist.
Music to get through a pandemic with, or
Right.
something
And,
like that.
and that's on Spotify. I actually shared it in our Instagram stories. And
Maybe we can share it somehow with this podcast so people can click a link. I don't even know if that works, but yeah.
yeah, I'll see if I can do that too.
You're the wizard with the.
But what's it called? Silence. You had a name
Silent
of it?
Time or something? I don't know. Just go to.
Sorry, I put you on
You
the
can
spot.
find it on mine.
Anyways,
I can't remember what it was called.
it's a great playlist. So it's a great time to take advantage of the time to be creative and try to look at some of the positive things that are sort of coming out of this. So I'm always a glass half full kind of person. If you fast forward through the first half of this podcast where it's very glass half empty, I do like to focus on the positive
Me too.
aspects of things.
I'm very positive.
So
person.
having some time to reconnect, with your direct family, is great. Having, time to do home renovations. I see a lot of people online doing Insta stories about just tackling home renovations if they've got the supplies in, or just doing decluttering.
Or just going out
cleaning.
and getting a walk in some open spaces, like
right. Taking the time to meditate, focus on solitary activities, and just reconnect with themselves.
Listen to some music. Like I'm very much enjoying diving into the vinyl collection. That's been great, and you guys have been enjoying it too. Well, I think you have. Anyway, most of the music. There was one time last night when I put on that.
Oh, by you guys, you mean
Dvorak.
me and Hux?
Well, you enjoy the music too, don't you?
Oh yeah, no. But I mean, you said you guys. I didn't know if you were talking to the listeners or to me.
And yeah, I meant you and Hux. Yeah, I did mean you and Hux. But I put on that Dvorak classical music. Remember, you were trying to read, and it was like, I feel like I'm
Oh,
in
it
this
was like
like,
musical score for like an action movie or something.
Yeah,
it was quite distracting for reading.
it's funny.
I have a hard time reading to any music that has strong vocals. This didn't even have vocals, but
it was difficult.
It was
to
just
read,
so dramatic that it was hard to stay
Yeah.
concentrating on what I was reading.
Yeah.
But yeah, great time to catch up on books.
Oh yeah, I've been reading, and we've all been reading. We're going to read after this. Actually, we've decided.
And it's an interesting time to, I guess, appreciate the importance of connections with our friends. You know, it's a bit of a sad time to know that there's going to be a period of space and time between our future gatherings with the people that we love and that are close to. But
I agree.
I am so thankful on the positive side for the technology, for social media. I mean, when I saw a post, somebody, I don't know if anyone has watched Love is Blind, which is on Netflix, but if you're, got some time on your hands and are looking for it, it's actually pretty interesting.
Crazy show.
But it's essentially, the concept is people date initially in pods, so they're not able to see one another, but they're able to talk to one another. And there was some, people said in a way it was almost so it was preparing us for the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
Because of the nature of that social interaction.
Yeah.
Where they could only hear one another, but they couldn't see each other face to face. So I thought that was kind of an interesting observation of that particular show.
That's a show that's both a reality show and an obvious social experiment as well. To see what would happen if two people couldn't see one another. Could they fall in love? Is love blind?
You'll have to watch it to find out. I liked it. It was good.
Yeah, you binge watched it for sure.
I completely did.
Yeah.
You didn't even finish it, I don't think.
I didn't, no.
No.
Yeah.
But if you like reality television, then
what can you do?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really dived into, watching binge watching television programs. We're just more like kind of taking it easy right now, but I'm sure we will get there. Netflix will be our new best friend, I think, for a while.
I think so too.
Catching up on some movies that we're way behind on.
And there's a struggle, I think, with, I know here locally with supporting local businesses. That's been a struggle.
That's a struggle.
Because, people are being cautious and staying isolated. But there are some creative ways people are coming up with to support local businesses.
The gift card one was pretty
one
smart.
of them was, you can go online, so you don't even have to leave your home, but you can go online and buy a gift card to support local business now. So
when this all blows over.
And then you have something to look forward to down the road. You can use the gift card down the road and go out to dinner, but it might help, smooth their cash flow a little bit and support them as well. And if you are going out for essentials, I mean, we all need to get some groceries, and
it's true.
You can consider going to some of your smaller stores, not necessarily the great big box stores. If there's local coffee shops, they sometimes will sell coffee in bags the same way you would purchase it in a larger store. So
that's right.
There are some creative ways to still limit your exposure, but if you're going out and buying some essentials, some may argue whether or not coffee is essential, but I don't think that many people would argue it.
Well, yeah.
Most people need
I don't
their
drink it at
caffeine
all,
fix.
but some people can't live without it.
But I think if you are going to go out for those items, then consider buying them maybe from one of your local establishments rather than the bigger box stores.
And we I guess one of the things too that we just want to express wholeheartedly is to all of our listeners is just stay safe. Just stay safe. Just make common sense decisions to mitigate the spread of this crazy crap.
You talked about music, another option too, that musicians who are not able to tour because of the pandemic obviously are going to be strongly affected. You can look at purchasing online music. And
a lot of
it.
Bands, because they can't tour, are just doing one-off videos and just putting them out for free, of concerts.
Right. Well,
and
then there's
no
also music available for purchase as well.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a great way to support them, because it'll be a difficult economic time for particularly for anybody who depends on an audience, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I guess this is probably our first official episode that was focused exclusively on the coronavirus, which causes COVID-19.
And remember, we're not professionals. We're just giving you our perspective, basically,
Yes, and I think it'll be an interesting time capsule to have some of these episodes to reflect back on. And see where we're at and where we've come from. So stay tuned. And you know what? A great thing to do if you're holed up at home, catch up on past episodes of InfoQuench.
Catch up.
We've got lots of them, a whole stockpile. So, get all snuggled in and listen to your favorite podcast.
Okay, thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.
And remember, you can catch up on past episodes at InfoQuench.com.
Or just about anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
And help spread the word about InfoQuench.
Till next time.